Welcome back to the Tipsy Theology podcast with me, your host. My name is Paul. And who is this wonderful gentleman sitting next to me?
Hello, I am not Tom Jones. I am Dion.
This is Dion. And for you audio listeners, there's someone sitting next to me.
Yes,
Or
I am.
the freeloaders, as I like to call them. Only the people that pay are able to see us.
Oh, bless their hearts. Sorry. You should definitely be here. It's much better on this side of the mic because there is going to be a drink somewhere in this.
Yeah, and there actually are some visuals
Oh, nice.
on this.
Oh, yes. Today, I'm going to try not to break anything.
Yeah. Please don't break it.
Let's see. There we go. Today, I've brought a box, and this box is
Describe
the
the
box.
box for us.
The box itself is from the Jose Cuervo Family Reserve Tequila, and this box was hand painted by the people of Tequila, Jalisco. So the Jose Cuervo family every year commissions a art competition in order to showcase different artworks from Mexico. They typically will ask a Mexican artist to design the box. And once they choose who the artist is going to be for the year, they have that artist, they give that artist resources, money, the whole nine yards. They get a commission to actually design this box, and then they also have to teach the people of Tequila, Jalisco, how to actually paint.
So cool.
Hand paint this box, right? So what's really cool is they make a limited number of the Family Reserve Tequila. This bottle, by the way, is completely empty, and there's a reason for that.
It's delicious.
It is very delicious. But every bottle itself comes with the candle wax top. It has the number of which bottle you actually receive for that year. And it has the date in which you actually receive. And the date correlates with the actual box that you have as well. So
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece. And every year it's very different. And I think the beautiful part is that the Jose Cuervo family is still to this day the only Mexican family that still owns a tequila farm in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
And they continuously reinvest back into the people of Mexico by making sure that they're not just, kind of like getting free labor or anything like that. Like they actually are teaching them new skills. They bring them to their family ranch in order to teach them new skills. And this was one of the skills that they wanted to teach because they wanted to actually promote the arts in Tequila, Jalisco. So
it's really well painted too. Like it looks like a print.
Yes. So they make, for a lot of them, just depends on the design. They make a stencil for them.
Okay.
And once they do the stencil, again, every box will be very close to each other, but they won't be exact. You can actually, when you go to the liquor store, they may or may not let you see two of them side by side. Most of the time, they won't have multiple of the same year. A lot of liquor stores will have maybe 2 or 3 years back. Just depends on how long it takes them to kind of like cycle through them. But but you'll notice that there are some differences whenever you get, and they're sometimes hard to detect. Some others in the past, way hard, and not as hard because they look simpler. Very, very distinct. Yeah, some of the designs are just. Are really unique, but they're really, really cool. I mean, every single one of them is a beautiful work of art, and I've had this box again since 2007.
That's amazing.
But I've kept it because it was my first.
Yeah.
I have had others.
Nice.
We won't put a number to how many I've had, but I have had others.
We like to celebrate collections.
Collections. Nice. Yes. This is my tribe. I feel like I found my tribe here. But yeah, like it's I've kept several of them and I've given several away. Just because again, it is definitely kind of a very beautiful piece of art. So it looks
so cool.
It looks really great in anyone who has like a small bar or something in their house, it looks
it's a great piece.
Fantastic. So
especially I love the colors they have on there too. It's like a nice sky light blue.
Yeah.
Is your main background and then got some black and like a maroon?
Yes, there's like a maroon and like a deep gold. Yeah, that's in here.
And there's all sorts of little guys
yellow.
all over the place too.
Yeah.
I think that one's my favorite. That guy
This
right
one,
there.
yeah. So they,
I don't know what he's holding.
they
but-
actually like, we don't. It's more tequila, Paul. That's what it is. It's more
of course.
tequila. Yeah.
Of course.
But you'll notice this particular design was really kind of a reflection of the architecture.
Yeah.
The pyramids that are in Mexico, and again, they love artists that reflect like what Mexico, like kind of the identity of Mexico.
Cool. Yeah.
So a lot of they have some very abstract pieces.
Because this one's almost like an optical illusion in some ways.
A little bit.
All the different shapes and patterns.
Yeah, if you look at the corner, you'll notice that this building really kind of looks like it actually turns a little bit. Yeah. So it's this one was I love this particular one. I went to school for architectural engineering, so this one really appealed to me. But it's a fun one to really look at, and I have had it, kind of sitting out, like I've seen like family members and friends just kind of keep turning it around.
I love that.
Just because like it's so much to see here, and it's you never get bored of kind of looking at it. So it's a nice piece. I like it. I really like it. Yeah.
And so I want to say too, before we jump into drinks and everything here, and really dive into it.
Sure.
So I met you here at Catapult.
Yes.
For those that don't know, Catapult is like a co-working space, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
Incubator co-working thing.
It's so they are actually going to start saying more that they are an incubator shared space. But it
seems like they push that direction.
Correct. Yeah. And I think part of it is just a maturation process for the organization as a whole.
Makes
It's a nonprofit organization that's focused on entrepreneurship and trying to build the economy for the city, right?
Yeah.
But when they first started, again, they started in a basement, and then they kind of grew up into this gorgeous multi-purpose building, right?
Yeah.
And I think, when you get such a huge resource, it's a little intimidating,
Absolutely.
and intimidating to kind of figure out like, how do you shape this in this city, right? And whether it's really going to run. And I think they've had some really huge success with different entrepreneurs that started here, Mike and Mike Desserts, and different Citadel cybersecurity company. There's a number of different success stories. There are yoga studios, Black and Brew, and so now that they've started to see that success, they're starting to own that incubator, kind of category.
Cool.
But I think before they were afraid that if they named themselves as an incubator, that it would come with this connotation of resources that they didn't have at the time. So they just wanted to kind of mature. But now I think, because of all the success,
to offer.
Yeah, there's a lot more to offer. I mean, the physical building hasn't necessarily changed, but I think the resources and the amount of people in their network has changed. And I know for a fact that they're working on an actual incubator fund that they can help entrepreneurs to kind of accelerate their business and whatnot. Yeah, so it's such a great concept.
I'm learning more and more about the thing that I'm a part of.
This is your orientation, Paul.
This is great. I need this. No, I feel like, I don't know if it's my personality, what it is, but I get like the least orientation whenever I join something new. And it's always like, oh, that's surprising. No one told you that. Like, yeah, what? How did I miss this?
So it's funny that you say that, though, because today we were actually having that conversation about how they do have a lot of resources, but a lot of people don't know how to navigate those resources.
Yeah,
and so they're working on trying to better align some of the resources that they have to the people that actually need them. So they're going to be, amping up a lot of the interviewing process and the follow-up,
cool.
advisory boards and things of that nature to really kind of get to know some of the entrepreneurs that are here and
that's really cool.
Try to figure out like how can we help you?
Yeah.
But they also have an appreciation for the folks that need this as a shared space, and because there are a number of, for example, nonprofits, I came here under the guise of continuing the nonprofit work that I was doing in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There's Grace Church and other churches that are here that are doing nonprofit work. Take Heart, which is a retailer that is a nonprofit also. They appreciate the fact that they just need a space to really kind of like perform administration or do networking to learn a little bit.
Like that.
Exactly, strong towers like that. Yeah. And they know that they can still benefit from the same entrepreneurial network, right? And some of the same resources. But they're going to get more refined in where they point some of their kind of the resources that are allocated to the funding that they have, right? And they want to make sure that they stay true to the purpose of the nonprofit and to the purpose of the funding that they get, so they want to make sure that they continue to accelerate the businesses that are working here. Especially those that are really kind of go-getters and want to, be successful and can contribute back to the local economy and create jobs and things of that nature. They've had some really great success. It's just a matter of being more intentional about focusing on some of those folks and then allowing, there to be a continuous network of people that are here that can still help support and actually give you an audience. If you have a business, it creates an audience for you that you can test different things. Because the cool part about having that research and development kitchen downstairs is every once in a while we get to try some of their stuff.
It's true.
Mike and Mike Desserts I became a fan because I got free cupcakes here. So
and you got to try them.
Right, I got to try them. And so, it's
cool.
It's a cool organization. But
anyway, lovely lake in Florida.
Yes.
Catapult's cool. And
Catapult's cool.
You should look into if you want to come down here and start something.
Yes.
We love local in Lakeland, and I never want to see that disappear.
Yeah.
And so places like this are really special to kind of make sure that reality and that culture continues.
Yeah, I agree.
It's cool.
Totally.
But yeah, so I got introduced to you here.
Yes.
And
were we talking about that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
my little like side tangent. You're a storyteller. That's what makes it so fun.
It's true.
But yeah, so we met here, and you asked me what I was doing, and then I asked you what you do.
Yeah.
And the first thing you said, which we'll talk about it here in a minute, was, I'm on the board for a circus, and I immediately went, huh?
It is. It's funny. I've actually started telling people I'm a part of the circus.
That's awesome.
And then it's like, what do you do?
I watch it.
I watch it. I'm a very professional watcher.
And I make sure
circus.
Others can watch it.
Exactly.
But before we jump into all that, though, because I know there's a lot, and I want to talk about as much as we can.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure?
Actually, I have a gift for you, though.
Oh, okay.
It's this lovely box.
Okay. We like boxes.
Just a cardboard box. And I'm not going to share it because our address is on it.
Okay.
Oh, I should blur that. Here, let me rip this open for you. I feel like I'm doing your Christmas present. Hey, kiddo.
Hey, I'm going to tell you, Christmas started in Disney November 1st, so you're late, man.
That's true. I don't know how I feel about that. I think scarcity should be respected.
I do. I don't
I'm a day after
disagree with you.
Thanksgiving personally.
I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
I will tell you that they started the first Halloween party was basically in August. And literally for almost 2 months, I was going to Halloween parties because
no way.
Disney dictated that Halloween had started.
This is Halloween.
This is Halloween.
Anyway, I've started opening your gift for you.
Okay.
So do you have any idea what this is?
I have zero idea what this is.
Awesome.
Okay, it says, it's not magic, it's you. This should be interesting.
It's me?
It is me?
Isn't that great packaging?
This is really great packaging, by the
cool?
way. Let's move this aside so we can at least see the visual here. The other side says, Magic meets science at magicmind.co/learn.
Yeah, look at that.
And what we have here,
a little booklet.
There's a booklet.
You can read that in your own time.
All right. Get the most magic out of Magic Mind. This should be very interesting. All right.
I think so because you do a ton of stuff.
Yes, I do.
And I'm sure you're chugging coffee to some degree.
I am chugging coffee to an insane
Just toss that
degree, to be quite honest with you.
So
this is cool.
Have you ever seen this before?
I have not seen Magic Mine.
Oh, yes. There's these cool little shots.
Okay.
And,
I feel like I'm setting up a display at Trader Joe's right now.
Right. So this stuff is
matcha.
great. You can find me drinking it in the morning sometimes.
Okay.
If you pay attention. Nobody does. Nobody does.
No one pays attention in the morning,
No.
Paul. No one does.
But
okay.
Caffeine affects me a lot.
Okay.
I don't know how it affects you, but if I drink some yesterday, I'm still jittery today.
Really?
Oh, it hits me hard.
Oh, wow.
And so it's got like a little bit of caffeine in it.
Okay.
You can drink it like with your coffee, which I do sometimes.
Nice.
Like take a shot of it and then drink your coffee. Or you can just drink this. It's got like a little bit, it's like 35 milligrams or something like that.
Magic Mind productivity shot.
And it's amazing. I don't get any jitters when I have this.
It says it's subtly sweet. Is that true?
It's a little. You want to find out?
Do
you mind if I steal one of yours?
No.
We shot it together.
That's what gifts are for. They're for sharing.
I'm the worst gift giver right now. I'm like, here's a gift. Let me open it for you and then partake in it.
What I really like about this packaging is that it says it boosts energy and focus.
Yes.
It crush procrastination and it elevates mental clarity.
That's exactly what it does.
It's like all the things that I need for sure.
So I want you to try it.
Okay.
And let me know how it goes.
Okay.
Because I've noticed a difference when I use it.
Subtly
it's amazing.
Sweet. All right. Subtly sweet. Let's see.
Keeps me honest, you know?
Okay. We're going to see.
And we're going to take because alcohol's a downer.
It is.
And this is an upper.
Ah.
So I think it'll balance us out.
Okay. So we're going to go up first and then we're going to come back down and we'll level out.
So cheers to you.
Cheers to you, man. Thank you for this.
Is that nice?
Oh, that is nice. And it is subtly sweet.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect it.
I did not.
Because I first thought it was going to be bitter when I first tried it.
I got to tell you, every time I go to like Trader Joe's or something and I see something green, I'm immediately thinking there's kale and there's all types of bitter greens that are in there.
Yeah.
But this is good. It is definitely subtly sweet. I like it.
And it's all natural ingredients.
I love it.
And that's what I love a lot about it. I'm not just pumping my body with chemicals, but it's like actually stuff that's good for you.
This is really cool. And you can recycle this bottle, so let's not throw these away.
Oh,
right?
yes, you're a better citizen than me.
Do more.
Throwing them across the room.
Do more and stress less. I like that. That's really cool. Thank you for that. That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
And now
that's cool.
We got some drinks.
We got some drinks.
Ready for some drinks?
Yes.
So you finished yours, but I managed to find another one. Doesn't have a cool box.
Oh,
but
nice.
It's this cool blue box.
Very cool.
I'm a Reposado guy personally.
All right.
And that's what I was looking for, but they only had the Blanco.
Okay.
Oh, it was actually kind of funny. So I went there today because it was one of the few places in Lakeland that sells this kind.
Okay.
Nowhere else
Plantinos?
really carries it.
Okay.
I think they're very specific about who can carry it too. Uh-oh. Good catch. And
can you hear me? Oh.
Yes, there you are. Very good. We'll just make sure that stays connected there. Little headphone mishap.
Yeah, it's not.
Are you not hearing anything?
I don't hear anything.
Check right up on your ears.
Oh.
Maybe that got unplugged.
There we go.
Is it
Hello? Oh, there we go.
You
We're
are.
back. Okay.
And we're back in action.
We're back. All right.
So I went there and I was like, hey, do you have the family reserve? He's like, oh, of course. I'm like, oh, very good, my man.
Nice.
And then he's like, well, we got the Blanco. I was like, well, do you have a Reposado? He's like, yeah, of course. And then he's like, it's right there. So I pick up this box. I'm like, it's empty. He's like, so he starts digging around for stuff. He's like, oh, I found it. Oh, dang it, it's not it. We were probably in there for 15 minutes of him just searching. He's
That's
like,
hilarious.
I'll have it Wednesday. I'll have it. I was like, well, I need something today. So then I was like, well, let me find something else. And then that's when I texted you. I was like, are you okay with Blanco?
I gotcha.
And you said yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, let's do this one. He's like, okay, just because it took so long, I'll give you a good price on it.
Oh, nice.
I was like, I love this man. It's like
awesome.
he's sponsoring the podcast without knowing it.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it.
But yeah, let's dive into this.
So it's like you can sponsor this podcast for $20.
And it's a cool little box. It's a little
That is.
damaged because they had a sticker on there.
Sorry. So this is Jose Cuervo Plantino.
Yes.
Oh, so this is the Blanco.
Look at that little.
Oh man. So I gotta tell you. So
Yes.
I won't get into the full story, but my first experience with tequila was in Tequila, Jalisco at the Jose Cuervo family ranch.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Is
beautiful.
that what it looks like?
That is exact. Well,
Might be part of the ranch.
yeah, it is. That is part of it for sure. Yeah, but it's a beautiful place. Yeah,
They can't see it. They might.
they might. They'll pick up their own. That's what they'll do.
That's
they'll
what you
pick
need
up
to
their
do.
own. Jose Cuervo Plantino Family Reserve. That's awesome.
I love that seal on the top on that wax.
Yeah, it's a nice touch. It's a beautiful touch. The cool part about having my first tequila at the Jose Cuervo Family Ranch was they took us on this tour, and as we're going through this tour, and I think I've told you this kind of long story, right? I
Yeah.
know. I
I'm
think
listening to you.
I've told you this long story, but it's as they take you through the actual distillery.
Yeah, yeah.
They have these little setups where you have all the different tequilas, and they'll show you the process as you go through. And
So
I was taking shots at every point
Oh man, you were meant for this podcast.
because I had no idea. It was my literally, I had never had an alcohol other than wine.
Oh, your very first time just.
Other than a red wine.
Whoa.
Red wine was the only thing that I had ever tried before I tried this. And I had only tried red wine for the purpose of cooking with it. I just wanted to taste it and understand what it tasted like. And then I went to the Jose
Interesting.
Cuervo Family Ranch, and I, get there, and I don't know what the effects of tequila are. But I'm with, apparently, an entire group of people who do, and was cracking up at me not knowing, and just allowed me to go through the entire factory just like
That's
taking
incredible.
shots. Yeah, I don't even know how many shots I took, but I do know that by the time I tried this Blanco for the very first time,
Yeah.
that I had, this was probably number 8 for me, within 2 hours. Like literally within 2 hours.
So your shirt was coming off.
Well, not at that moment. It's a whole nother night that I don't remember at this point. It's like I was dressed the next day, and that's all that really mattered to me.
That's true.
was this thing.
That's true.
So, but this is great though. This is good.
Let's
This
get
is
a little,
really great.
Let's get a little cork pop here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, it didn't pop like a little.
No,
Might have been me.
they did, no. It doesn't pop that much. They seal it with the wax in order to really preserve it.
Oh, that's cool.
That's why they don't really kind of make it difficult. Like, and as the
That makes sense.
I don't know what you call a tequila professional. Like he's kind of like a sommelier, like a
I guess.
tequila Monnier or something. Drunk is probably the more
Party guy.
science name. I wasn't trying to get all technical on here, but yes.
It was a little crazy, you know. I know my stuff.
You do. But yeah, he told us that they don't want it to be. Yeah, I think that's good. Well, we'll see. We got a whole bottle to go. We'll see.
There's no shame in seconds.
I like the fact that you have your mason jar. See, I want to like get the same amount that you have.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say
You
that
have your
I
mason
drink
jar
out of this
kinda
because
guy?
I'm a degenerate. No, I don't know how it started, but one of my buddies in Ohio, this is all he had to drink with. So
He has
we
like a
would
whole set of it, or like.
He just had like a couple, didn't even match. Some of them were blue, you know.
I love this. I love it.
And
I love it.
This is what he bought like 100 and something bottle of whiskey, and we drank it out of these mason jars. And so
This is my kind of friend. I like him.
yeah, so I've just always had like this is just what I drink out of now.
That's awesome. I love it.
I have a couple other nicer glasses, but There's something special about this.
Dude, why don't you this should be your thing. Like
this is my merch.
This should be your merch right here. Like, I don't know why.
Instead of ball, it's just going to say Tipsy.
Now
Theology.
I'm offended that I have this classy jar right here. Like, who am I? Like,
that's reserved for royalty.
I don't know. I want to be that guy. I want to be that drunk guy. That's that one right there.
It definitely paints a picture.
It does.
When you're like, I drink this out of a mason jar because I can't be bothered to find anything else. And my jam in the morning, and then
all it says is, I'm not trying to put on airs. I'm here to get drunk. I'm here for a good time, not for a long time.
I'm just here to party. Right. We get tipsy, by the way.
That's right. That's right. You would think that we already were, but we're not.
It's funny. Most people are okay with that when you say that. At least Christians. A lot of them are like, oh, tipsy. Yeah. I met someone recently. They're like, nope, that's just as bad. I was like, oh my gosh. I can't win.
you met somebody pretty hardcore, I guess.
I did. Yeah. So we went to do a little scripture tour.
Oh, okay.
I was like, this is why I think it's okay.
Okay.
But it's fun. Anyway.
Yes.
We can get tipsy off of this.
Cheers.
Cheers to you.
Cheers to you. Cheers to Jose Cuervo.
It smells so nice. Ooh.
That's smooth.
I don't know how to describe it besides I feel like I'm getting like smooth. It tastes like sandalwood. You know what I mean?
Yes. It's the barrel. So here's the thing. For this tequila in particular, it's the third sip that you actually get the full flavor.
Oh.
Because the first sip...
Gotta coat your mouth.
You do. Your first sip, it shocks your palate. You feel that tingle on your tongue?
I love that.
That's because your tongue doesn't recognize the flavor.
Oh, interesting.
And it's trying to educate itself on what that really means. And then the tingle starts to kind of subside a little bit.
Yeah.
But it almost feels like there's something airy in your mouth a little bit. Kind of like when you get that sensation of a peppermint.
He's reading my mind.
Oh, this is what the tequila saw me. Like, I wasn't so drunk that I couldn't understand what he was saying. So, like, I paid attention. Good.
And to remember it for this long.
I do. It's hard to forget when you get traumatized with a full day of tequila. Yeah, it's hard to forget. But yeah, so that first sip is really, and even as we're talking, like it's subsiding on your tongue, right? Like it's almost like going away.
Tell me we're ready for another.
And you have to take it, but here's the thing. Yes. On the second one, I want you to slow down your swallow. And I want you to breathe in a little bit of air through your mouth. Just a quick.
Before I swallow? Okay.
Before you swallow. And then you're going to actually smell it. Okay?
Whoa.
See?
I'm learning so much right now.
Right? So the second sip, because your sense of taste is the first sense to actually develop as a child. And that's why when kids put things in their mouth, it's actually a sign of intelligence because they're trying to educate themselves.
I'm smart.
Right? I know, right? I was definitely one of those, like, put it in my mouth.
You're right. It's all going in.
But exactly. But you're...
Don't take that out of context.
Yeah. Not that tipsy. But yeah, like your tongue kind of educates your brain a little bit about what that flavor is, or at least starts to catalog it, right? But your brain is like, okay, I know what this tastes like, but anything that has like a flavor should also have an associated smell.
Oh,
so your brain triggers your nose basically to say, what is it?
Oh, whoa.
So when you take that second sip, it's like your brain is intentionally attempting to smell.
Like identify it.
Right. Because it wants to make sure that just because this tastes like whatever, and I don't know what it is, I need to smell it to know if there's real danger that's there, or to better educate myself on like whether I'm going to like this or not, right?
That's interesting.
Is there anything familiar about it? So you recognized kind of what you called it sandalwood, right?
Yeah.
So Jose Cuervo has very, very specific woods that they use. I can't remember all of them, but they get some from France. They get a lot from Mexico.
One
they
of them
get,
better be sandalwood.
it's probably.
My
I don't,
reputation's on the line.
it may be. It may be. That's next episode.
That's cool.
I'll tell you what they are. But it's definitely been a long time since I remember the exact words. But the Family Reserve in particular has. I want to say that the Family Reserve, and I'll check myself out and make sure that I'm correct on this. But I believe that the Family Reserve has only one specific type of wood that they use for the barrels, right? But that wood also has I think the Reposado, not the Blanco, but the Reposado has, it's a rum-based drum, right? And then the Blanco, it's not, because they want just kind of the pure
Just
taste
the
of the...
agave yeah.
Exactly. So that one, I can't remember the wood it is, but at any rate, it's just one wood that they have. Some of the others, they have like 3 different woods or 2 different woods, but they're very specific about where they come from.
That's
and I
cool.
believe that the Blanco comes from either Japan or China.
Oh,
one of
wow.
the two. But they
That would
import
make sense because
that.
they're doing a lot of rice wine,
Yes.
which is very, very clear spirit.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So it comes from there. But again, tasted the first time.
Also tastes like feet.
Shucks you.
I love it, but
Okay, you're getting drunk off of feet. I like it. So again, first sip shocks your palate,
yeah.
and your brain catalogs the taste, but it doesn't tell you what the taste is. Okay.
Keeping it secret.
Second is when you smell it,
Yeah.
right? And your brain is now like putting the taste and the smell together. So your third sip is when you actually taste the flavor of a tequila. It's the true flavor.
Let's unlock this mystery together.
Let's do it. So now you're getting both. And you feel it coming back
That's
in your
good.
mouth a little bit.
I do.
See?
And even like the tingles and stuff
Not as
have
prevalent,
flavors
right?
attached to them.
Yeah, but the tingles aren't
Oh,
as
that's so
they
good.
don't like, so the first time you have it, it's almost like a tiny sting.
Yes.
The third time that you do it, it's not a sting. It's just it's there.
Yeah.
And it's
yeah.
activating the exact same taste buds that recognize that flavor
That's cool.
before. It allows you to swallow it. You smell it more prominently in that third sip. And then also it puts it all together for you. So you start to
Yeah.
actually feel the warmth in your throat. You feel the warmth in your mouth. Whereas in the first and the second one, you didn't feel any
Guy's
of those
a
things.
wizard.
It's the
That's so
magic
good.
of Jose Cuervo,
Dang, I'm a huge fan.
right?
I'm a fan.
Right? And it's so
Dang.
different. It's so different when you kind
Yeah.
of know those things about it and you can experience it. And it is the exact reason why I drank way too much when I was there. Way too much.
I can see it because I think there's a stigma about tequila in particular.
Yeah,
Which
there
is
is.
why most people barf when they think about it.
Yeah. It's very true.
Because that's most people's experience is just having way too much
Oh, absolutely.
and then just
and
getting rid of
two,
it.
when I was there, one of the things that they talked about was that they had heard and was very familiar with a lot of bartenders that would water down their product
Oh, interesting.
in order to make a profit, basically.
Yeah.
And so a restaurant that serves Jose Cuervo, if they weren't like really kind of a high-end restaurant, would typically just kind of like milk it. They would
Wow.
water it down. And so when they water it down, it hurts you. Like,
Yeah.
like it makes people sick sometimes.
That makes
Or they
sense.
were putting it in like margaritas and all this other kind of stuff, which is high in sugar.
Yeah.
And all those things just kind of like affect you
ruining
in
the
a
flavor.
yeah, it
Yeah.
does. It ruins the flavor. You never really get to know exactly what it tastes like.
Yeah.
And then secondly, it pumps you full of like all these different sugars and everything that it just
Makes
end up
sense.
making you sick at
Yeah.
some point, And
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, but this is one where like especially the Blanco, when it's mixed, it doesn't have like a very strong flavor. In fact, your third
Yeah.
sip is not like a strong flavor.
No, not at all.
The first sip was.
Even
the first sip, like,
the tasting notes that came out in the first, I could still taste them on the third one, but they were more subdued.
Right.
Because other things started to pop out.
Well, it's the smell and the taste coming together.
Yeah.
And it's the memory of what it was like, right? And that's why that third sip is really the true flavor. Is you never really know. You have to educate you have to educate your body to know. Yeah, you got to teach your body how to drink it, right? And that's the reason why that third sip is so powerful, and to know what the full flavor. Now, you think about getting that in a margarita,
you're not getting that.
You're never going to get it.
You just put whatever you have in
there. Like it's like it feels like it's not even gonna matter.
You're right.
Because it doesn't come through unless you're getting it on the rocks, and then maybe you can get something, right?
But, yeah, because you're still sipping it and enjoying it that way.
But again, depending on the bartender, if they don't mix it right,
that's fair.
If they don't get the right ratios and all that stuff, like it can totally mess you up. And when you're like most people that try tequila for the very first time, throwing shots, or getting it in a margarita or something like that, all those shot glasses are watered down in some way, shape, or form, or it warms it up or cools it down too much or whatever the case. But it's very, very hard for people to get like the real thing,
yeah, for sure.
Unless you, again, I think because my experience was very different, I think the only thing I would recommend is that people try a tequila at home first and then go out. And have it.
So you know what to expect.
Kind of know what to expect. Yeah. Because honestly, like I think less people would have bad experiences with tequila if they just had it at home first.
That makes sense.
And gave themselves an opportunity to really know what it tastes like, right?
Yeah, I mean, even the idea of it being like something to sip.
Yeah.
Seems very foreign.
Oh, absolutely, it is. Yeah.
This is for shooting.
But look at the bottom of that bottle, right?
Right. With the
bottom of that bottle has the thumb part, right?
Yeah.
This is made like a wine where you hold it and you pour it like this, right? Like when they served this to us in Tequila Jalisco, they held the bottle like this and they would come over and they would just pour.
That's cool.
They wouldn't like, I'm going to pour this little shot thing and then throw it.
Yeah, right.
Like, it wasn't that. Like it's a true sipping tequila.
That's cool.
It's a true sipping tequila. So it's that one in particular. I think it's just it's a great one. It's a really.
I can see getting through that pretty quickly.
Yes, you can. You can. I know for a fact that you can do that.
I've proven it. Well, yeah, I'm loving this. I will definitely probably grab some seconds here.
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it.
Are you ready for a little refresh?
I am. You can't tell it because of the fanciness of my glass, but it is gone.
Yeah, we need to freshen that up.
Sure.
I love how it has the bevel, and I'm like, I'm not going to use it. I'm a palm guy.
Go for it, man. Go for it.
I will catch up to you. Don't you worry.
No worries. I'm not worried. I'm not worried. We're not racing here. We're not racing.
But if we were, you'd be winning. So, I do want to ask you before we jump into this. It's
sure.
Kind of like a inaugural is not the word. It's a regular, recurring question we ask.
Ooh.
Is what's your perspective on alcohol? Clearly, you're okay with drinking it.
I am. I'm okay with drinking it, but I will tell you that I didn't drink alcohol at all until I was well into my adulthood, and partially because I had a negative experience with alcohol as a kid. Very negative experience where I saw the bad side of what alcohol could do to people.
Yeah.
And I saw, it was pretty rampant, with family members, with friends, just a very negative experience. And so I had decided that I was never going to drink alcohol. I was never going to do it. And and I stayed true to that. And it wasn't difficult by any stretch of the imagination because, it was one of those things where I was like, I'm okay without it. Like I have a great time.
I think most people are respectful when you say that too.
Yeah. Like it wasn't because of, religious reason. It wasn't because of a health reason. It wasn't because of anything except for just a decision that I made for myself because of what I saw as a kid. And I didn't want to, I didn't want to emulate that trauma. I didn't want to, really, I didn't want to find out if I was going to be that person, right? That I saw,
huge.
Right?
Yeah.
And then later on in life, I started learning, I wanted to be a chef. I really wanted to be a chef. And In fact, I took about 2 years to actually study Italian cuisine.
Really?
I did, and
I learn more and more about every time we talk.
Yes. Now, when I say I studied on my own. No,
okay,
so
yeah.
like I was
YouTube University.
yes, basically, I was doing a whole bunch of
that.
like trial and error, testing certain things. I would go to cooking classes, you know, and but it was these individual cooking classes. But I learned that in Italian cooking, that wine is a very common thing to kind of use in pastas and in you know, different sauces and things of that nature. So I wanted to know what it was like for that taste, right? So that's why red wine was the first thing that I had ever tried, right?
Makes sense.
So I was using different red wines from different parts of Italy to understand the difference and to understand what effect it was gonna have on the dish that I was making and whatnot.
Yeah.
And through that process, it kind of like taught myself that I do have control, that I don't have to be excessive about it at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really started to learn my tolerance level. And I've always felt in control of it, you know.
That's
even
cool.
when I went to Tequila, Lisco, and tried tequila for the very first time.
Yeah.
It was a different type of experimentation, and definitely went way overboard at that event. But I didn't have a bad experience, right? It was very like educational. It was very like fun. I was around a group of people that I really enjoyed. We had a great time.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the next day, it wasn't like a bad experience for me. Like I didn't have a hangover, and I wasn't like, you know, so again, it was one of those things where I kept having these experiences where I learned that it doesn't have to be negative.
Absolutely.
And I don't have to be out of control with it, right?
That's cool.
And so even now, I don't drink a lot by any stretch of the imagination. It's just like on occasion, you know, socially, and every once in a while, I may randomly go grab something for myself, right? That I want to try.
Yeah.
But it's almost like I give it purpose, right? Like I want to try
That's
it
cool.
because I'm either interested in the history of how it got made, or I'm interested in what it might taste like in a particular food.
That's cool.
When I first tried bourbons, for the very first time in Louisville, Kentucky. And I started like learning about
a great place to
the
start.
whole, right. Yeah, it's a fantastic place to find out about bourbons, by the way.
You're going to learn about bourbon.
Yeah, you should totally learn about bourbons, whiskeys, scotch, and the difference of all of them.
There's so much.
Yeah, there's
and
a lot.
then you hop
that's
into
there.
the mixology side of everything. It's like cooking. It opens up this whole new world.
It does. And I think that's where I had kind of a change for myself in that I wasn't afraid to try it anymore, right? Like I had kind of, it was almost like I kind of healed myself through that process, right? And gave myself a different experience than what I had known as a kid, right?
Yeah.
And fortunately, none of those people were actually drinking any really good liquor. They were drinking like really cheap stuff. And so I could say, gave myself an excuse, you know, like
That's usually self-medication.
yeah, it was more like they just drank the cheap stuff, so that's what their problem is, you know. But but honestly, like I think, you know, drinking responsibly is a really important thing. But it's not just important so that you don't get out of control. It's actually important because I've learned so much more about it by being intentional about what like that whole story that I told you about this tequila, like that makes it that much more interesting.
Absolutely.
And you have a different experience with this tequila as a result of like, you could have just taken it and shot it back and been like, oh yeah, that's good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly.
I would never know.
But you would never know, right? And you wouldn't have paused and been intentional about understanding how it affects your body, right?
Absolutely.
And understand that effect on your body can have an effect on what you experience from it and how good it is and things of that nature, you know? So like, because I think I've had really great experiences of kind of being introduced to it the right way, like I have a much healthier relationship, I think, with alcohol now than I did as a kid, you know, kind of growing up. But I'm very glad that I waited because I don't believe that I would have been mature enough to handle the same experiences at a younger age, because I just wasn't as intentional about wanting to learn something about it. You know what I mean?
The art behind it.
Right. Like when I was a kid and even when I like you like, oh, you're 21 now, you can go and drink. It's like, but why? Like, what? I mean, like, I'm just doing it just to be doing it, or is there something to really learn from it, or is there something to experience out of it? Yeah, you get drunk. Okay, but then
not
what?
Like,
it's not that great, right? It's not. But like, like truly, giving yourself an opportunity to learn what it tastes like. And understanding the effect that it has on your palate, the effect that it has on the aromatics, on how it smells. Like all those things are actually like very, like they're missed by the vast majority of us that drink, right? Because you can get the same experience from a bourbon.
So much history behind everything.
It is. You can get the same experience from a bourbon or whiskey. Like there's all these different great spirits that are out there. And you got these guys that are spending their entire lives trying to figure out like the right, mix of it all, right?
Yeah.
And, understanding that, like Christian Brothers out in California. I went to the Christian Brothers. It used to be a monastery.
Oh, no way.
It was a monastery. And it was an accident that they came up with rum. Because downstairs where they were curing, or kind of like allowing it to just kind of sit and whatnot, was actually like a cathedral down there. It's a beautiful place.
That's
I
cool.
mean, just absolutely gorgeous. And then they took a swig of what they were like allowing to sit and ferment. And they were like, okay, this is kind of good.
Jesus, you in?
Exactly. Hey, Friar, you should come and try this heavenly potion here, But yeah, like, I mean, it's, there's such a rich history around the discovery of all of these things, and I think
that's cool.
Giving yourself an opportunity to really kind of learn about that history and learn about the effects that it actually has on you and taking your time with it, right? So that you don't feel like you're getting out of control. Again, I had a very traumatized fear of what it was going to do to me and how it was going to make me behave. But I think I learned over time how to regulate myself a lot better because I had a much more mature way of actually looking at why I wanted to drink and why I wanted to even try anything.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. So I definitely have a much more positive outlook on alcohol, and I think there's opportunity for people to have better experiences. They just need to kind of take their time with it and not rush into anything from a peer pressure perspective or just to say that I drank something. Like, don't do that. Just like learn about it because I think it makes it a much better experience when you do. Yeah.
I agree with that. That's great. I love it. I endorse.
Nice.
Well, I wanna jump into it because
sure.
Omnium Circus. And
Omnium Circus.
Ooh, here we go. And I will say, so for those faithful listeners, you guys should know by now. So when I was in school, I had a classical education growing up.
Oh,
and so the way I explain that basically means instead of learning Spanish or French, I learned Latin.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And omnium, that's a Latin word.
It is.
So I put back on my high school Latin hat. And I was like, let me see if I can figure out what the intention was behind the name.
Okay.
Before you give the full explanation of everything.
Yeah. What did you learn?
So for me, and I wrote it down because I'm not going to remember in the moment.
I love it.
So it's the genitive case because you have all these different declensions and endings inside of it's a Romance language. There's different endings. So it's the case of omnis or omnis, which means all.
Yes.
And then in the genitive case, it means of. So it adds an of all. So that makes it possessive. So the Omnium Circus would mean it's an all-inclusive or including all.
Oh my God.
Am I right?
Dude, you nailed it.
Yes.
You literally nailed it.
High school Latin, let's go.
Oh, what that education, it was well paid for. I don't know.
Thanks, Mom.
Yes. Bravo. Like, no, seriously, like you nailed it. Like that is the purpose of Omnium, is to make it a forum for entertainment for all. And truly in the sense of all, right?
Yeah.
Because a very typical, not just circus, but just about anywhere, right? Movies, concerts, and all the like. There's a lot more people now that are bringing someone who can do sign language, as an interpreter off to the side. But by and large, the 16 to 18% of the population in the U.S. that has some form of a disability can't enjoy a lot of that entertainment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so Omnium was formed not only to just kind of entertain all, but also to kind of educate all, and a particular interest in employing all. Okay. So Omnium Circus is designed to entertain the entire family. And by that, what we mean is if you have someone in your family who is, who has a physical disability, or who may be deaf, or maybe partially blind, or even completely blind, or if you have someone in your family who's neurodiverse, people that have that are bipolar, or have some other kind of mental ability to kind of makes them think a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Omnium caters to every one of those, and in the form of making sure that sound, light, entertainment, the cadence for the entertainment, all of it is geared towards entertaining and impacting all those people without triggering all of those people.
That's cool.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a forum where everyone can actually be entertained, and we even choose our venues in a manner in which allows it to be accessible to everyone, right? And we want to make sure that everyone can get in and get out safely, and we want you to be able to sit and be entertained and understand that you are a part of the show itself, right?
Yeah.
When I say employ, what I mean by that is about 40% of the people that are working, on staff with Omnium actually have some form of a disability. And so part of the mindset that we take with that is that, we want to be stewards of our own, kind of mantra, right? Like we want to do what we're asking other people to do. So about 40% of the people that work with Omnium have some form of disability, and even those that are on the board or volunteers and all the like may have some form of a disability, and we have a place for different people, right?
Yeah.
And that's intentional, and we're continuously trying to reach out to people with different types of disabilities in order to find opportunities to bring them in to either work with Omnium or to work with other entertainment sources that we have networks for, right? But we also want to encourage other employers to be thoughtful about how some of their job descriptions may be excluding those folks, right? Or to make them more mindful of the fact that we may have kind of prejudged and not given those folks an opportunity to do certain things that we have. And I'll give you an example. We have someone that works on the staff who has Down syndrome, and he actually helps us with our social media. And that is not typically the person that would get interviewed for those jobs, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
But he does a freaking fantastic job. Like
it's amazing.
He's amazing, and he's enthusiastic. He loves the circus,
cool.
and he tells great stories about who we are and what we do, and one of the best, like on site at a show, like being excitable and telling people about the show, like it's great, right?
It's so cool.
The other thing that we will do is when we put on a show at in any particular location, is we typically will reach out to the School of the Blind, the School of the Deaf, or different veterans organizations that have like disabled veterans organizations, and we will ask if they'd like to volunteer to work with the circus while we're there,
so cool.
so we can have people with different abilities handing out tickets, or helping us out with lights, or helping us out with sound. I mean, you heard the sound, right? And very particular about that, right?
Yes.
But we do that intentionally, again,
It's very
because
impressive.
right, like it's really
It's
good.
impressive.
Like, it's really
So I saw the show 2 weeks ago now.
Yes.
2 weeks ago, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
It was one of those where it's like, because I've heard you talk about it,
Yeah.
but I didn't really know what to expect.
Sure.
And then when you go and see it, you're like, this is legit.
Yeah.
Like, it's
It
like
is.
even
Yeah.
in my mind, it's like I like to consider myself a pretty inclusive person.
Sure.
But even then, it's like there's connotations.
Yeah.
And like when you hear about this kind of circus, there's there's a mindset that's attached to it. Like, okay, it's going to be cheaper.
Yeah. Well,
and then you go and it's like,
real.
This is incredible. I've never seen stuff like this.
What you get for what you pay for that ticket is amazing.
Absolutely.
It really is amazing. And part of that is just because of our youth. Like, it's a young organization, and we're going to get to the point where we want to try to draw a crowd, so we want to make it manageable for folks. But I think the reality is, and what you saw was, kind of a subset of the full circus that we can actually bring to the table, right?
Yeah.
And we do that to kind of, it's like economies of scale, right? We know what our price point is going to be at the for the circus, but we have to pay all of those entertainers, and we pay them well. We pay them
That's cool.
Exceptionally well, because we don't want to have those performers come in and not get paid what they're worth. And that's part of our mantra too, is that we will not sacrifice on paying everyone what they're worth and what they will bring to the table. I mean, these are world-class performers who have performed with Ringling Brothers, who have performed for other circuses around the world. And a lot of them, I think about 30% of them actually come from other countries.
Oh, wow.
And I want to say that we counted about 13 different countries that we have represented across all the performers that we have performing. Yeah, so it's incredibly diverse, and not just from an ethnicity perspective, geographical, but also abilities perspective, right?
There is some incredible thing. I mean, even to like on the largest side, seeing someone shoot a bow and arrow upside down with their feet and hit the target.
Yes, yes.
I would have dropped that thing immediately if I could even get into a handstand. and then Kara, the other person who's with us, she can't stop talking about these two clowns that did a whole scene with bubbles.
Right.
like it's the most crazy thing I've ever heard, but it was incredibly entertaining.
It is. The show itself is amazing.
Yeah.
It is truly amazing. From the clowns that did the bubble act to the star of the show, who is an able-bodied young man, right? Because the story is about this able-bodied young man who was actually inspired by all these amazing things that people can do, but he sees people that have disabilities performing these amazing acts, and he becomes even more inspired, right? So the idea behind that, again, very intentional, the idea behind that is to inspire people that are able-bodied to look at other people with disabilities, not only because you can be inspired by what they can accomplish, but also to realize what is possible.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of times we put limitations on them because we believe, that they probably can't handle this, or they probably won't do this, right? And we don't give them those opportunities, and we don't reach out to them intentionally to try to give them different opportunities, right?
Yeah.
But then if we can change our mindset on that, then we can also change our mindset from an ethnicity perspective.
Yeah.
Which is, again, part of the reason why we showcase so much ethnicity in the show. And the star of the show is actually a black male, right? And that's intentional because we want to make sure that we're putting forward all of the different diversities, right? And showing that the diversity is what is so powerful.
That's cool.
And that diversity can win people over to understand that there's so many more possibilities. The name of the show, by the way, is I'mPossible. And it's absolutely wordplay, right? On breaking up impossible and making the individual possible, right? And allowing you the opportunity to do those things. So it's laden with lessons of equity, and laden with lessons of diversity and inclusion, right? And it's all intentional because again, we believe wholeheartedly that we as humans need to change in how we believe that we can include more people in creating beautiful and amazing things. And we're able to accomplish that through Omnium Circus. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys do it really well. I mean, I think what's cool about it too is when I was watching it, it opens me up to a side of the world that I don't see. Yeah. And I think that's what's really cool. It's what you're saying is like we put these sometimes unrealistic expectations on people with disabilities.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, well, that's too much for them, or they can't handle
Right.
that. But we have no idea.
Yeah.
And then you go and watch something like this, and it's like I'm being opened up to a world that I don't get exposed to.
Right.
And realize like they could probably do more than me.
Right. Right. They can.
And I'm technically an able-bodied person.
Technically.
A textbook.
Yes. And I think that's a very powerful way of saying that too, Paul, because I think, well, let me ask you this question. When do you remember the last deaf person that you saw?
I would say it'd be the circus, probably.
Okay. Do you remember the last blind person that you saw?
I don't.
Do you remember? Maybe. Do you remember? Right. Do you remember the last person that you saw that had bipolar?
I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you remember the last disabled person that you saw?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why do you remember that?
And I would say it's because it's outside of what I'm normally seeing.
Right. And what did you see? Were they like in a wheelchair, or were they on crutches, or?
No, so it was actually somebody at my church with Down syndrome. With
Down syndrome.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's physical traits that you can see,
yes.
Right? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So people that are deaf, people that are blind, people that have different type of mental abilities, right?
Yeah.
Or disabilities. And even sometimes people who have physical handicaps go largely unnoticed. We walk past them in life all the time, and we never really see them. There's since I kind of started talking about Omnium Circus here at Catapult, there's been 3 people that have come up to me and told me that they had a disability.
No way.
And you have no idea who they are, do you?
Wow. I wouldn't even know where to guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I mean,
Wow.
I didn't get a superpower to see the disabled by working with Circuit, but it's inherently human that we don't see those with disabilities.
Yeah.
Because we only focus on those that have abilities that are greater than ours. We're constantly focused on the person that is prettier or stronger or taller or faster or something, right? Some other ability, because those are the things that make us insecure. And so therefore, in turn, we typically will ignore a lot of times those that have disabilities, and also ignore what their needs might be, ignore what it might take in order to help them be prosperous or to help them be more secure, right? And to bring them into what we're doing, right? Do you know if you've ever had anybody disabled listen to your music?
I don't know that for sure.
Exactly.
I can say that, yeah.
If you were to intentionally make a video with someone that has sign language, do you think that you could reach someone that was deaf?
Yeah, it would be way more approachable.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you think that if you actually sent your podcast to someone at the School of the Blind, that they might play your podcast? Right?
Yeah.
So the other part of the show and a lot of the advocacy that we do is about teaching people to be intentional in your normal course of life.
Yeah.
Like those 2 examples that I gave to you are not hard for you to do at all, right?
Yeah, they're easy.
They're not hard. They're very, very easy.
Yeah.
Just takes a little bit more effort, right? It's one more line on a project plan. It's one more thing on your to-do list. And what we're trying to really kind of advocate for is just that one more piece of effort, that one extra step in order to make an accommodation. Because if we all made one extra step, then this world would be completely different, right?
Absolutely.
Back in I want to say it was like 2015, there was a town in, I want to say it was in Europe. I'll get the video so I can send it to you, but it was very cool because there was a young man who had just moved to the town, and he was deaf. And he was being supported by a lot of different organizations in order to kind of help him get accommodated in this new town that he was going to be in.
Yeah.
But the town got together, small town. They all got together and they all went through 8 weeks of sign language. So when he arrived,
oh wow,
they were sponsored by, I want to say it was Sony. Were sponsored by Sony, and Sony set up all these different, kind of audiovisual AV billboards, where they would do sign language in order to kind of show him what the sign was saying. And he noticed as he was walking through the town that, like, hey, this is kind of cool. Like, they got signs that have sign language on them, right?
Oh,
the
wow.
videos are like, and I can see everything. And he had this lady who bumped into him, and she looked back at him and she said, "I'm sorry," in sign language.
Oh wow.
And he was like, "Oh, no problem." And he turned around and he was like, "That was cool,"
Yeah.
And he kept walking through this town, and he noticed that there were several people that was speaking sign language to him
No
until
way.
he got to the town center. And then they threw up a this video for him specifically, which was
That's
a
cool.
message to let him know that the entire town wanted to make sure that he felt welcome. And so they all took sign language in order to
Wow.
better communicate with him and to create an environment for him that would allow him to just feel comfortable, in that session. So it was really nice, right? Like, and it literally took. Wow, that was weird. It literally took them, I don't know, like 8 to 12 weeks in order to kind of put all of that together, right?
Wow, yeah.
So if an entire town can take 8 to 12 weeks to, make one person feel completely comfortable.
That's so cool.
Imagine what they've actually done in that town to make more people feel comfortable,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because I'm sure he wasn't the first to be in that town that was hearing impaired or deaf,
Wow.
right? Like, you give, a little bit of effort, 8 weeks. I mean, I've spent 8
Yeah.
weeks doing a lot of, like, very unproductive stuff, very unproductive. But if you take 8 weeks to kind of like just learn sign language,
That's
like,
so
how
cool.
different could someone else's life be as a result
Yeah.
of you doing that, right?
That's amazing.
Right. I think so too.
And I love the tie into that. And it's funny, I said this to you earlier, is that I was telling some people, Christians and non-Christians, who were asking like, "Oh, what's your episode going to be about?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, we're going to be talking about this circus."
Right.
I'm like, what does that have to do with theology? I'm like, have you ever read the Bible?
Yes.
That's kind of this whole thing's about.
Yeah.
And I did want to spend a little bit of time and kind of tie that in.
Sure.
And it's specifically, it's funny because like you've pretty much already said all the points.
Good.
So I'm
good.
basically just kind of re-emphasizing.
I read the script and I am basically a savant.
He has stolen all of my points. So that's the end of today. No, and I think the biggest
Cheers.
one is, and I've personally been spending a lot of time on this verse. I just read through Micah, one of those minor prophets.
Yeah, I was about to say.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You went to Micah. Like,
I know.
wow.
I was like, I need like an actual theologian to help me understand what I'm reading.
Get somebody that's off the grid here. Let's go to Micah.
That's how I do these days.
I like it.
But
I like it.
it's kind of the end of this. So Micah 6:8,
Okay.
and it's the end part of this, which has been really sticking with me a lot lately.
Okay.
So in the end of it says, "Do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God."
Mm.
And the part that really stuck out to me, especially with what we're talking about here, is the do justice part.
Mm-hmm.
And like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does do justice? Does that mean like take care of criminals? And when the Bible talks about that, it's always talking about how we as people are redefining what is good and what is evil.
Sure.
And how we use that redefinition to preserve ourselves and make it easier for us. And when we're doing that, we can take advantage of people that are weaker than us,
Yeah.
people that are more maybe disadvantaged.
Yeah.
And I have another verse here, Micah, 2 verses, Numbers 5, 6 through 7.
Okay.
And it says, "Speak to the people of Israel, when a man or woman commits any of the sins that people commit to by breaking faith with the Lord, and that person realizes his guilt, he shall confess his sin that he has committed, and he shall make full restitution for his wrong, adding a fifth to it and giving to him whom he did the wrong." And so the reason I bring that up is because I forget what the Hebrew word for it is, but
Well,
when
this is not a fifth, but I understand what you're saying. Go.
it can be when we add the second.
Gotcha. Sorry.
No, you're good. And so when the Bible talks about justice, and the word for that, it is not just about, how we would typically think about in like a courtroom or something like that. But it's about restitution.
Yeah.
It's about making things
right
as correct, making them right, but then adding on to that.
Yeah.
And then we see later when Jesus comes, he makes it even harder.
Makes it difficult.
So we are called to live as Christians. We are called to live by a moral code of conduct and to treat others rightly. Mm-hmm. If we do wrong to someone, we are called to pay the consequences and restore those that we have done, that we have wronged. Mm-hmm. And in Scripture, we see, especially with Jesus, he goes even a step further, and he says he calls us to seek out those people that are vulnerable and being taken advantage of, and help them out.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the whole story of what Jesus did.
That was his job.
That's the gospel.
That's all he did was walk around and speak to the deaf, speak to the blind, speak to those that were, with leprosy, prostitutes, thieves.
Those people that are perceived as vulnerable.
Correct.
And I think with that is...
And those people who had traumas based on public perception.
Yes.
Right? Because even a leper was seemingly a criminal in biblical terms, right? Because there was always this connotation of a curse, right? Or that your family had done something wrong.
There's some sin in your
Exactly.
life.
There's some sin that had caused you to be physically disabled.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so therefore, everybody should stay away.
Yeah.
Everybody should leave you, cast you to the side, right?
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. And I think I love those points.
When we just look at, the law, it makes sense that would be the case.
Sure.
When we look at it in just this black and white side, it's like, oh, well, that's a logical conclusion.
Yeah.
But then we see Jesus come and be like, no.
Right.
That's not it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think your earlier point was right. It's about restitution, right? It's about finding the path to the greater good of all, right? And what does that path really look like? And there are some injustices to people, this happens in the job, in the workplace all the time. And we talk about it or I've talked about it quite a bit in some of the diversity work that I've done. And back in I think the first law in 1954 was passed to basically say that it's an Equal Pay Act. Basically say that if a woman is working in a job that is the equivalent to what this man's job is, you have to pay them the exact same.
What a novel thought.
Right? Early 50s when the law first got, it wasn't there wasn't uproar about it before then, but it was the first time that the law had been signed was back in 1954. Okay. So here we are. You come full circle back to 2019. No, it was 2017. I can't remember the exact year. President Obama signs the Lilly Ledbetter Act, right?
Yeah.
Which said, if a woman is working the same job that another man is working, you have to pay her the exact same thing. And in addition to that, here's how these women can file a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit. And here are some protections that allow them to do that, right?
Wow.
Now, that particular law, this was probably, I want to say, if I am historically correct on this, I think this was either the 5th or the 6th time that law had basically kind of been
resurfaced.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it is not law that makes us abide by what we should do.
Right.
Right. It's morality.
Yeah.
It's values. It's principle. Right. And in the context of all of that, throughout the several years of history where women, and even today still, are only getting basically 70-80% of what average man gets paid in their job right now, in the equivalent jobs, that type of equality still has not happened over the years. It's almost 100 years or more that women have been fighting for this, right? And well beyond that. And then you think about the same context applied to different ethnicities. You think about, what if it, the context that happens to people to women that are of different ethnicities. And then you think about the context to women in different ethnicities that may have a disability.
Dang.
And it just gets progressively worse the entire time, right? And why? Why does it get worse? Because there's law. There's been law changed like 5 different times to say the same thing. It's like, okay, if there's a woman that does the same job as a man, pay her the same thing.
Pay her differently. That's what I'm hearing.
That's kind of like what society has said. Is like, so what you're saying is, don't pay her the same thing, or like,
got it. Pay her less. I get it, loud and clear.
Exactly. It's like different color paycheck. Is that what you want? Like, it's.
Do you want pink paper?
It's the most right. It's the most ridiculous thing, right? So why? What is it that stops us as a civilized society? And actually doing that thing, right? Like, what is it? Yeah, you like to believe that we're civilized, right? So what is it that stops us from making that happen?
That's a great question.
If we all agreed on that law, if we all support that law, why does it still persist that it doesn't happen? And it's not just the bad actors.
Right.
This is a very passive thing that happens all the time in the workplace, is that we quite often have these disparities in whether it's gender or race or abilities or all the different protected classes, right? They're protected and still not have justice.
Even to the side of like, oh, let's build this new building. Wheelchair ramp, that's too expensive.
Oh, exactly.
I'm kind of making that up, but I'm sure it's been said.
Exactly. 16% of the population in general, and almost every single city has some form of a disability. And in every parking lot, there's roughly about 1% of the parking spaces that are dedicated to people with disabilities. And why?
Yeah.
Why?
I didn't realize it was 16%.
16%.
That's wild.
And in some cities, it's even larger than that.
Wow.
Florida has a lot of cities that are way larger than that, just because of the type of population that we have. Yeah.
Okay.
But in general, across the United States, it's roughly 16 to 18%.
Wow.
Fluctuates, obviously.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing, is that not everyone that has a disability will tell you that they have a disability because they're fearful that by exposing that disability, that it will also make you prevent them from doing stuff, right? Like, I have a friend in New York who has epilepsy, and it wasn't until recently that she actually told her employer that she had epilepsy, and she had to because she was being triggered by the lighting that was in the office.
Oh, wow.
And when she was working from home, it was heaven because she could control everything, and everything was, she could control her environment.
Yeah.
But they asked her to come back into the office, and they had done this great refurb and done all these different things with the lights and everything. But the lights was out of balance, and it kept flickering.
Oh, whoa.
And that flickering light was triggering her, and she kept asking them over and over again to just change the light bulb. And they were like, "Why are you so upset about this light bulb? It's not that big of a deal. It just flickers." And to somebody
without epilepsy,
anyone without epilepsy, it probably wouldn't bother them that much. You might notice it, and you're like, "Oh man, that's annoying." Right, exactly. But you keep going. But with her, it was actually triggering her to have headaches, to have all types of different, like all these different things.
Yeah.
And again, that's it's just one example of how we create an environment where it's not safe. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that is the epitome of what we need to be doing. We need to change all the light bulbs and make sure that we don't trigger epilepsy people. Right. It'd be nice if we did, but it's about creating the right environment to make people feel safe.
Yeah. Where people with those are able to speak about it.
Yeah.
And not feel like there's going to be some kind of judgment on them for that.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's huge.
It is. It totally is.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to, a lot of it, that's what's crazy. Like when we think about culture itself in societies, it's based around like tribalism in a lot of ways. It's like, oh, we're all part of this tribe. There's a sameness to it.
Yeah.
And then when we see people with differences, we're like, let's capitalize on this.
Yes, exactly.
You now have to build our pyramids, by the way.
Yeah, so I mean, so it's interesting you say that, because I think that is one thing that kind of gets very unnoticed about the reasons why we feel like there's so much disparity, is because when a group is very homogenous, it's very easy to get agreement amongst that group to vote for, or to believe that or to try to set a standard that is right for that homogenous group. But when you add in, diverse, kind of abilities or ethnicities and all these different things, it becomes a little bit more complicated to come to one single thing that makes it right for everybody, right?
Yeah,
and it's very complex, and it takes a lot of effort. But I guess what we're saying at Omnium is that effort is worth it.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that the more complex that we become, the more we expand kind of our ideas and our imagination about what is possible, right? Because before you went to the circus, like, did you know that someone could actually flip over and shoot a bow and arrow out of their toes, right? Like, now it's like, okay, well, what else can you do? You know what I mean? Like, and again, it's an example of what, of our imagination being stretched beyond what we thought was really possible. We saw one couple that had crossbows. That made sense to us, right? But then when you see someone, single person, contort their body to the point where they can shoot that same arrow,
it's crazy,
from their feet and hit a target, like, it's like, whoa, that's next level, you know? And so that's, I think I think it's incumbent upon us as humans to be more mindful of the fact that diversity is hard, inclusion is hard, but it's still worth the effort, right? Because the more that we include more people, the more innovative and the more imaginative that we become. And yes, it can be disruptive in some ways, but it doesn't mean that it takes away value from your life as a result of doing that, right? It actually broadens out the possibilities of what your life can be when you can see so many different possibilities.
Yeah, I think about that with music and with writing.
Yes.
Is because it's very easy. That's why sometimes it's like collaborations are so nice. Because it's very easy for me to get caught into like, well, it has to be like this. Like, this is how the verse sounds. And it can't sound different. And then someone else comes in and be like, what if you tried this? And it's like, oh my goodness. And all of a sudden it opens up this whole new world.
It totally does.
The other thought I had about that too, in the same way, is like when you move in with, my case, like a roommate. And some people, when you get married, it's like there are those things that will bother each other.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense to the other person.
Correct.
Because, like, well, it doesn't bother you, so you don't think about it.
Right.
And even the story you told about the lights flickering.
Yeah.
It's like for a lot of people, it's probably annoying because it's like, I don't care.
Right.
The lights don't bother me.
Yeah,
it's maybe a little bit frustrating. But like, at the end of the day, I can go home and sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's where we have to step outside of ourselves and learn, well, how do we treat each other really well?
Yes.
And we're not good at doing that.
We're not. I think my faith in that human capacity to be good has absolutely bloomed as a result of working with the folks over at Omnium Circus.
That's
right?
Cool. Yeah.
But I will say that the reason why my optimism about it has bloomed is because I can see the intentional effort.
Yeah.
Right. And that's that I think is the real difference, is knowing that it takes effort in order to get it done. And seeing people who relentlessly and tirelessly and very happily make that effort. Yeah. I think it's a very different mindset for just humans in general. Because our first, a lot of times our first instinct is to be afraid of it. And to be, I don't want to call it lazy, but just not want to put that effort towards it, right?
Even in like the most basic side of it, it's like it costs so much more money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just in time alone, it's like to be able to prep all of that. You can't just walk in somewhere and be like, done, ready to go.
Well, so that's a great point. It takes money allocated to a different place.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's the same money that you would have spent over here.
Yeah.
And now you're just diverting that money to a different place, right?
Yeah.
And the tendency is for everyone to believe that because I have to divert my money to this other place, that means that this thing doesn't get any money anymore, right? But what I'm saying is that the moment that you divert your money to this different place, you open yourself up to a new audience.
That's cool.
You open yourself up to a different possibility in terms of like channels in which you can like push that thing, right?
That's cool. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you can't go back to and still rely on that other thing. You can. But now, because of the new revenue or profits that are coming from this new audience that you have, now you can do both, right?
That's cool. Yeah.
I mean, think about that, right? Like, I mean, the reality is airplanes that are now starting to take seats out and make them more handicap accessible, right? Knew that they were missing a market. Knew that they needed to transport people who have disabilities and needed to make it a little bit more accommodating. How many times have you been to the airport and they pushing a wheelchair up to the front, right? There's a lot of people that need that accommodation, and they were just missing the opportunity to do so, right? So it doesn't mean that it takes away from anything. It means that you just divert it somewhere else, create a new possibility, innovate, right? Become more open and more inclusive of those folks, and then boom, all of a sudden, you are the go-to, right?
That's cool. I like the way you said that, because I mean that's huge,
right? I
because
mean,
it really is like it's that idea of we're just expanding things. Because there is that like A/B side of it that we were talking about, where it's like, or that you said, it's like, well, you think just because you have to move it over here, it's like, oh, this is gone.
Right.
But it's like, no, you've just done this.
Yeah, exactly.
You just said there's a different way to do this that's better.
Right.
And let's work on that.
It is.
And I would say, like, even if it's better, just in the case of you gave people the opportunity to experience something they couldn't experience before.
Absolutely.
I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so much more powerful, right? Because you're speaking to an audience and you're trying to convey an experience that they just don't understand because they've never had the opportunity to really take advantage of it. And then once you give them the ability to access it, now you got a whole nother story, because now you can take that language and the way that they experience things and you can tell it to people that are just like them, right?
That's cool.
And you can actually use their language, use their words in order to experience and to talk about that experience and say, we can do this for you too. Because that person's not going to always go through that one experience, right? Like, but there's other people like them that want to go through that experience, right?
That's cool.
And so when you can do that and you can start to speak to a different audience than what you've ever spoken to before, then it broadens your audience. It gives you more people that you can touch with the thing that you're trying to like promote, whatever service, whatever product it is, or whatever message you're trying to convey. If you can speak to those people that are typically not hearing you, there's nothing but upward, kind of mobility that you get as a result of all of that. That's
cool. So I'm gonna put you on the spot here a little bit.
Yeah.
So let's just say the average person, average person listening, they have a 9-to-5 job.
Yes.
What are some practical ways people in that position can do justice, help those people?
Oh, man. Wow, we're going to need another 2 hours for me to get through that.
Top two.
I think, so the first thing is to ask questions and not be afraid to ask those questions, right? I think far too many people, especially in the workplace, far too many people don't ever take the step to get to know someone that is different than them, right? So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
And I won't stay on it long, but I want to make this point. Think about the first time that you ever felt different.
Got it.
And give me 3 words that describe how you felt when you knew that you were different. 3 words.
Alienated, uncomfortable, and vulnerable.
Alienated, uncomfortable, and vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Now, instead of thinking about what you felt like when you were different, tell me about a time when you knew that you were in a diverse environment And what are 3 ways to describe how you felt when you were in a diverse environment?
When I was in a diverse environment. So I was just part of the average.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I've never thought about that before. Now I'm on the spot. I was trying to put you on the spot.
No, but it's...
No, that's great. And I guess I'm having trouble with that because I don't think I felt really any different.
Exactly.
I didn't fall for it. Nice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Inherently, as a human, when we feel different, we feel uncomfortable, we feel vulnerable, we feel like we don't belong.
Yeah.
Right? So when we know that other people feel different in an environment, then we know that they're experiencing those emotions, right? But if we were to create a diverse environment, nobody feels those negative experiences.
Yeah.
Diversity is the same thing as actually being in an environment where you're different.
Yeah. It's just everyone's different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I said the
cool
exact same question to you. I just used 2 different vocabulary words.
Yeah.
It's describing the same environment, but when I said you're different, you immediately associated that with negative feelings, right?
Yeah.
So when someone feels different, it's because you feel alienated. It's because you feel uncomfortable, right? And when you don't create an environment where it's not an environment where people feel different, but an environment where people feel like they're in a diverse environment, then you created something much more positive, right? And even in some cases, just neutral, right? Like you don't feel those negative experiences. If you can just get to neutral, right? Then you have something to build off of. Like in your mind, when I said a diverse environment, you felt like you could contribute.
Right.
Right?
Right.
You felt like you could contribute. You felt like it was a white space, like that you could like give something to it, right? To kind of give it some color or to give it some context or something like that, right? So and that's really what we're trying to create, right? Is this environment where people don't feel different anymore. Because if we can create a diverse environment where it just feels like I have the ability, the more diversity that you see, the more you feel like it's not so homogenous and you don't feel different. You don't feel alienated, right?
Yeah.
You don't feel uncomfortable because it's not even a defined space anymore.
Yeah.
And it gives you an opportunity to kind of like come into it and feel like you're going to contribute, right? So your question to me was about, say it again.
Like how does a 9-to-5er
contribute,
someone just
right?
a regular person,
right?
Because I think, and I'll say this was because I think with a lot of what we were talking about is maybe people with some kind of authority or a platform.
Yeah.
So it's like it's easy to take what we were talking about and someone who's like, I just go to work and I go home and kiss the wife, go to bed.
Exactly.
To be like, well, yeah, they should do that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
What can I do?
Right.
Yeah.
So I had another colleague of mine that asked me a very similar question a couple years ago. And I told him to do a couple things. So the first thing I said was, the next time that you're in a room where you have a group of peers or senior leaders that are in that environment, say one nice thing about someone that doesn't look like you. Say something about their skill, their expertise, or their contribution. To make sure that there is, and make sure that there is an audience that type of information is valuable for, right? If you're in an environment where you want somebody to notice you and to know what your expertise is, what your skill is, or what your contribution is, if you're in that environment, say something about someone else that doesn't look like you, that will allow you the opportunity to elevate someone that doesn't look like you. So that's the first thing that you can do to kind of elevate.
For those who are wondering why we're laughing, someone keeps
walking the door. Exactly. So it gives you an opportunity to kind of elevate and empower somebody that is not even in the room, right?
Wow.
But somebody that is different than you, right? And if someone can hear you speaking about somebody that looks different than you, then they're not looking at you as being that person that you're trying to, you know what I mean? Like there's so many different like ways that is powerful. But the most important to me is that you are actually giving someone that looks different than you an opportunity to be seen. Even when they're not in the room. Okay.
That's cool.
So that's the first thing. The second thing that I think everybody can absolutely do is to find a way through LinkedIn or through some other type of public forum to actually advocate for somebody that doesn't look like you. Okay. So the second thing that I asked him to do, I said, later on this evening, I want you to go on LinkedIn and I want you to write a recommendation for somebody that it does not look like you. Say something powerful about them that would absolutely make somebody want to like recognize them and maybe even steal them from this company, right? Like say something that powerful, right?
That's cool.
And if you can't think of anyone or anything that person can, that's going to take it there, then you need to go and find out who they are. You need to go learn more about them.
That's cool.
Because that'll tell you how much you've invested in trying to learn about somebody that is different than you. If you can't take, you mean to tell me that you believe that you can go to a holiday party or a town hall or some other type of, kind of public, forum to celebrate the success of your company, but you can't think of one person that doesn't look like you that has contributed to that. Not one.
Wow.
And if you can't do it, that's what I'm saying. If you can't, then you need to go find them. You need to learn more about them. Get to know them.
That's cool.
Find out what they're contributing. What are you working on? I'm not saying go and be their best friend. I'm saying go ask them, what are you working on?
That's cool.
How did you get into this? Like, what made you want to do this? And like, what do you like about what you're doing? What was the last project that you really felt proud of?
That's cool.
Have we ever worked together at all? What's a way that we could, let's think of something crazy that we could potentially do together, right? Like find a way to connect with that person in a way that helps you to better understand who they are. And when you go through that process of learning from them or learning something about them, then take a moment to write that recommendation.
Yeah. That's cool. I love that.
I think we probably got to wrap it up.
I think our time might be over.
Yeah, it might be. I think it is.
I don't know who's doing that, but I think they're kicking us out.
Okay. All right.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you sharing all of this.
Sure.
It's convicting for me and encouraging. Convicting to make me think, be like, what have I done? What can I do?
Sure. Absolutely.
And I hope the same for all of you guys listening
and
watching. Because I think it's such an important thing, especially as Christians, to be like, let's do justice.
Sure.
Let's help those people that have been taken advantage of, and let's raise them up to the place that we are instead of continuing to push them further down.
Absolutely. Agree. 1,000% agree.
So that's cool.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
This was fun.
Is there anything that you would like to plug before we sign off here?
Well, there's so many different things. I think I would encourage everyone to just be a better human than you were yesterday. Like I think more than anything, I think we just need to investigate ourselves and interrogate ourselves to understand why we don't have a more diverse group of people around us that are either empowering or encouraging to our own, kind of expertise, our own heart, our own emotions, and then go and seek those people out to see what we can find, what you can discover, and explore. Don't be afraid to explore that, because I think there's so much more to learn. It's very easy to get intimidated by it, but I think if you just lean into it a little bit, even a little bit, you start to build up the courage that it takes in order to continue to do that over and over and over again. Just put it into practice. Like I've made great friends here in a bunch of different places just because I'm very intentional about, kind of asserting myself in a very awkward way sometimes, like I have no idea what we're going to learn here, but like, let's try to figure this out. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I love that. And I'm going to put a link down for Omnium Circus in the description.
Oh, that'd be great.
So you guys better check that out.
Yes, please do.
You'll love it. There's videos attached there, too. You can kind of get a little taste of it.
Yes, absolutely.
And it'll blow your mind. And then you see them, check to see when they're coming to to you guys.
Yeah, 2024 is when we're going to start our tour dates up again. So
Perfect.
Yeah, February 2024 is when we're going to, I think it's going to be in New York.
Okay.
And we've been doing great in New York, so really looking forward to that show. And we got Arizona, Tyson's Corner, Virginia, a few other places that are on the website. So I'll make sure you get that. So yeah,
even if it's a state away, it's worth seeking out.
It's totally worth it.
I can promise you that. It was a great time. The
Yes.
only time I've been to the circus is probably when I was like 12, and I don't really remember it at all.
Sure.
But going there, it was incredible. It was really fun.
Awesome. Good.
I loved it.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
You'll love it too. So
Yes, you will. You definitely will.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
And for watching, if you are. And I will talk to you hopefully sooner rather than later.